is Black Market Leadership, the underground resource for disruptors and status quo breakers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Black Market Leadership. This series of episodes is it's going to be a little bit unique. For a while, I should say, I have been wanting to examine some quotes. Now, I don't mean quotes, you go on Google and give me a quote from Nietzsche. No. I have a list of quotes. I actually have several pages of quotes that I have picked up from my reading, from my studying over the years. And a lot of our military philosophers, you'll probably hear, this will be some Romans too, some Greeks. And of course, there's one from James Brown. Can't beat that. It's one of my favorite quotes too. But my goal is I want to invite you into my mind and share with you some things that I really like, some quotes that I just really adore. And I wanted to explain them to you at least the best way I can. Maybe I can analyze them. Maybe I can show you the implications to what it means. Some of them are really profound, but you got to really peel them back to get a good understanding. So what I'll do is I'm going to introduce you to the person who wrote it, give a little background, give you the quote, and give you the explanation. Pretty simple. With that, let's jump into this. Okay, the first quote. Now, this is one that I cannot find on Google. I had to go on Google just to see if I could find it so I can ensure I had the right wording. I heard this one, I would think 15, 20 years ago. I was doing a course on communication, and this is probably my favorite quote of all time. And this quote comes from Aristotle. Now, Aristotle is considered one of the big three philosophers. There's really three philosophers who created, in essence, the archetypes for all philosophy. Basically, any philosophy that you know today falls into one of these three. Aristotle is really the greatest of all philosophers. I mean, that is if you're interested in, science, logic, even political freedoms. He really is the father of all this. His years are 384 to 322 BC. By the way, Aristotle was also the personal tutor to Alexander the Great. So you cannot overstate the influence of Aristotle. Really, you can't. Even St. Thomas Aquinas really is Aristotelian, as we say. So here's the quote, and I'm going to give this to you the best way I can from my memory. Just as it is disgraceful for a man who cannot defend himself in the physical sense, it should be equally disgraceful for him not to defend himself in the intellectual sense. Now, I love that quote. I love that one because what it really means is to me, it's like the best mind-body connection. It really tells you have to exercise your mind as well as your body. And it reminded me, I don't remember the source of this, but I think the CIA once had a job description, and that was they're looking for PhD candidates who can win bar fights. I love that. It's and technically it's like the best of the physical and the best of the mental. Now, why is this important? To me, we see a lot of people at the gym, but you don't see a lot of people cracking open the books, really studying. And unfortunately, people aren't, I don't mean studying, but if you're not reading, if you're not trying to better yourself, given the time that you have, where do we get our knowledge or entertainment? It usually comes from TV. And if you do that, though, if that's your principal way of getting knowledge, it's really, you're living on a constant diet of fast food. And you're likely confirming what you want to believe in the first place. This is what we call confirmation bias. The one great thing about being able to extend your mind, to study, to really develop your mind, is you have to look for those things which really challenge you, that really challenge your premises. If you do that, you're really shaping your mind to effectively work in this world. There are a lot of moving pieces, a lot of different people, different cultures, a lot of different nuances. If you're not willing to understand them, you're really putting yourself in a disadvantaged place, I think. So if you're going to, what's the lesson? If you're going to up your professional game, you need to stretch your mind just as you would stretch your muscles. Read, study, And I think you'll see in this episode, there are a lot of pieces. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom out there that, is 2,000 years old, and you'll find that's even applicable today. If you can stretch yourself to do this, I think you're really better yourself. So if you're going to be physically fit, you need to be mentally fit as well. It will benefit you in the end. This is quote number 2. Now, this quote comes from a man named Ovid, O-V-I-D. His years are 43 BC to, I think, 17 to 18 AD. Now, some of this information, by the way, comes from Wikipedia. So if you look at Wikipedia, this will sound familiar. Ovid was a Roman poet who lived during the rule of Augustus. And for those who don't know, Augustus, also known as Octavian, was like the high ruler of Rome. That was the golden age of Rome. He was the cousin of Caesar. Ovid was very popular during his times, but he became widely read during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. So what is this quote by Ovid I want to share with you? Here it is, quote, "It is right to learn even from the enemy." I'll say that again. It is right to learn even from the enemy. Right as in correct. So why do I like this? Again, learning requires you. If you're going to learn, you have to go outside your comfort zone. The fact is, if you really want to learn, you have to challenge your own notions, your own premises, which probably have not been challenged. If you do that, you're placing yourself in an advantageous position, a position to take on the challenges of the world, because there's so many things out there, so many factors, so many unknowns, that if you're unwilling to examine them, then you're really just putting, it all comes to confirmation bias. You're going to go what you think is the right answer, the right conclusion, and ultimately, chances are you might be incorrect. In fact, it reminds me, there's a book out there called The Psychology of Intelligence Analysis. And if I remember right, the author is Richards Hoyer. And he had this wonderful, wonderful example of the mind. And what it was, I think if I remember correctly, he said, imagine a spider web, if you will, and your brain is in the nexus. It's right there in the nexus. All those little lanes inside the spider web represent specific disciplines, and they all lead to that brain. But what happens is, there's some people out there who love history, and that's all they know is history. There's some people out there who love sociology, they love economics or finance. What you find is, those are particular lanes. But if you really draw out those lanes, you might know like 2 or 3 of those lanes, if that. But all those other lanes exist. And what that means is, if you're trying to make a conclusion, if you're trying to come up with an answer, your chances are your answers are going to fall into the lanes, the very things you know, because that's all you know. If you read and you stretch yourself, if you learn from people, if you learn from your enemy, you're really, really honing your skills, honing your critical thinking skills. One of the historical examples I think of is one of my favorite heroes, or I should say historical figures. It's Flavius Aetius, or you might say Aetius. My first dog was named after him. Aetius, as I used to call him, was the only Roman general to defeat Attila the Hun. How did he do it? Well, one of the reasons was that he lived with the Huns. He knew their lifestyle. He knew their ways of fighting. He knew what the Hun was. Now, get this. Just because you read your enemy and you know them, you can respect the way they do things. You can respect one's way, or the fact they have opinion. It does not mean you have to accept it or even sanction it. I respect the fact that you have an opinion. Great. It does not mean that I have to like it. But it means, though, I am willing to go in and understand your logic, how you came to that conclusion. By doing that, I strengthen myself. I become more confident in my own beliefs because I am willing to do that. But a lot of people today are not willing to do that. Just look around you. You'll find others who will not listen to opposing opinions because it just makes them very uncomfortable. And that's a shame. Again, if you're going to know, if you want to defeat your enemy, it probably helps you to know them. I'd recommend anything, if you get a chance, to read Michael Scheuer's biography on Osama bin Laden. It is fascinating. It's fascinating to understand who that man was, why he did the things he did, his strategy. Why did he choose a particular strategy? If you know that kind of stuff, That would just help us in our strategy in fighting people, fighting insurgents like him. Gosh, there's so many examples out there. I guess the bottom line lesson is don't live in a world of fear. Stretch yourself, make yourself uncomfortable sometimes, even question your own ideas. Remember, you want to think that you want to have the ideas which you think benefit you. Make sure that they do benefit you. Just don't grab onto an idea and cling on it for the sake of clinging on out of fear. Quote number 3. Now, this quote comes from a man named Pericles. Pericles, his years are 495 to 429 BC. He was a Greek politician, an Athenian. He was also a general in the golden age of Athens. He was a prominent and influential politician in Athens, and he was the man who really got Athens into the Peloponnesian War, which was documented, or at least described by Thucydides. So Pericles is a very fascinating figure, very fascinating. The quote I have from him is, quote, "I am more afraid of our own mistakes than of our enemies' designs." I'll say that again. I am more afraid of our own mistakes than of our enemies' designs. I really like this one. What's he saying? Focus on the internal, the things that you can control. Likewise, you can't control your enemy. Those external forces, they have their plans, they have their designs, they're having conversations which you don't know. Instead of trying to control them, which by definition they're out of your control, you're just not there, you can, by chance, control your own forces, your own self. Instead of trying to make the perfect plan to outsmart your enemy, flip it. Try something else. The best thing that you can do as a leader, really the most effective thing you can do as a leader is, 1, get your people to unify as a team, not a group, but a team, a goal-oriented collection of people who are driving towards the same objective. Give them the direction and the infrastructure, the systems, the structure to win, to operate smoothly, easily. Guide them, lead them, direct them in a way that avoids traps or obstacles and helps them capitalize rapidly on opportunities. If you do those things, you're controlling what you can't control, and I bet you money is probably going to freak your enemy out. So that's the thing. If you're successful, your enemy could be watching, and if they're trying to control you, good Lord, your success will probably just upset their decision-making cycles. It may upturn all the premises of what they thought you would do, which is really what it's going to create. It's going to compel them to make new plans. In other words, if you're a success and your enemy's watching, chances are you may cause chaos on them if they are trying to control what they can't control. So again, with Pericles, I'll say it again, quote, "I am more afraid of our own mistakes than of our enemies' designs." If you can run a successful ship, if you can bring the team together and help them gain success, you are in control of what you can't control. And I tell you right now, you're in the best spot possible. You're not going to be able to just get into your enemy's plans. You're probably not going to be able to outsmart them. Just do your best and let them catch up if they can. If you like this content and want to hear other things like it, head on over to the website at blackmarketleadership.com. That's blackmarketleadership.com. There you can subscribe to the podcast, and you can even create a free members profile